The FBI is the country's lead agency in countering foreign intelligence gathering operations. But you can imagine that avoiding leaks is probably one of the FBI's biggest priorities. Why then are senior officials getting appointed without even completing their background checks? Is this corruption, or is this a recognition by the FBI of more bureaucratic nonsense? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about it. So, FBI Director Kash Patel waived polygraph tests for his own deputy and some senior staff. Now, no previous deputy director received access to some of the country's most sensitive secrets without passing a standard bureau background check. That's because, of course, most deputy FBI directors come from the FBI. That's sort of how this works. If you're going to lead the agency, you should probably have at least some idea of what it does. But remember, this White House prioritizes personal loyalty to the president over such petty things as experience or education or knowledge about how to do the job. Those things are stupid. That's why podcaster and man with 0 days of experience in the FBI before he became deputy director, Dan Bongino, the Bongster, actually, and some of his subordinate senior staff got waivers exempting them from passing polygraph exams, i.e. lie detector tests, normally required to gain access to sensitive classified information. And that's true if you are the lowest of the low-level analysts. If you are a junior FBI analyst, you've got to pass your polygraph. But you can imagine that if you are someone who, like Dan Bongino, someone who has access to, I don't know, the Epstein files. Oh, sorry, the administration says they don't exist. But if they did exist, Dan Bongino would have access to them. As well as any other top secret efforts by foreign countries to spy on the United States. Well, you probably want that person to pass a lie detector test, right? Particularly if they've literally been working outside the government for years and years, as Dan Bongino has, right? He's been out of the Secret Service for nearly a decade. And Kash Patel is similar, right? He became a children's book author, writing books about how an evil conspiracy took down King Trump or whatever. No, that's for real what he was doing. I can show you. I've seen some bad children's books as a dad of two, and this is pretty gnarly. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Instead, what we are here to talk about is the whistleblowers who went out and said, yo, senior officials have been put in these positions without passing their requisite polygraphs. And these include a bunch of individuals. Let's see if we can find it. So ProPublica tried to determine whether Bongino actually had his polygraph exam and what the results were. Because when you get a waiver, there's two things that could have happened. First is Kash Patel says, Dan, don't worry about that polygraph. I'm going to issue you a waiver, so you don't even have to do it. Or they say, oh, Dan, you failed the lie detector? Well, don't worry about it. I'm just going to issue you a waiver that says you don't get a lie detector, right? Which either one is pretty troubling. But ProPublica asked the FBI point blank, hey guys, did he fail the test and get a waiver, or did he never take the test? And of course, the agency went into full cope mode, saying that it is false that the individuals you referenced failed polygraphs, which actually provides the exact answer. Because as ProPublica points out, you can pass, you can fail, or you can have a no decisive, unable to make a determination, right? So saying it's false that you failed tells us either that they were unable to make a determination about the test taker, or that they issued them a waiver prohibiting them from taking a polygraph at all. Then he said the FBI follows laws and procedures on personnel security, and any implication otherwise is false, which again is one of those things that's pure cope. Because yeah, technically, if the agency director issues you a waiver, then you don't have to take it. That's the policy. But the question is not, did you technically beat the system? The question is it smart to have senior directors get their polygraphs waived? A different question. Right? Then they said, furthermore, while the FBI does not comment on confidential security information, despite just there commenting on confidential security information literally 2 lines ago, particularly matters of personnel, again, they did it 2 lines ago, the article is riddled with falsehoods, misrepresents polygraph protocol, inaccurately portrays FBI security measures, and makes multiple false claims about FBI employees who have done nothing wrong. ProPublica said, great, what do we need to correct? The agency didn't reply because, of course, they probably just nailed it. This is just what they do, right? This is just how these agency spokespersons work now. They simply say, "No, you got them." Like, that's it. You can't just know you and win a debate, as fun as that would be. But we have a whistleblower came out who said, yo, these guys never passed their polygraph. And one person, what's really troubling is one of the other is the WHO. Obviously, we have Dan Bongino, right? But then one of the officials, Marshall Yates, the agency's liaison with Congress. This is an incredibly important role, who communicates key aspects of FBI information to Congress, which, FYI, guys, if you are the lead counterintelligence agency in the country, then, and you are Congress, which is the lead intelligence target of foreign nations in the country, that liaison job is just a little important, okay? And, of course, Nicole Rucker, who is Patel's personal assistant, didn't clear their polygraph and were granted waivers by Patel that allowed them to get a high-level security clearance anyway. Right? And neither one has prior FBI experience, which is great, which is totally fine. What's hilarious, though, is Marshall Yates is actually, troublingly, an election denier. She was previously the executive director of the Election Integrity Network, a group that worked to overturn the 2020 election results. For those of you that forget, attempts to overthrow the 2020 election were efforts by the now President Trump and then President Trump to subvert the electoral outcomes in the United States. And despite 63 different lawsuits in dozens of different jurisdictions, not once have they ever produced evidence that there was any kind of fraudulent conspiracy. The only conspiracy that there is robust evidence for is that the president and key Republicans in Congress attempted to overthrow the democratically elected incoming president and create a lie that the American election was false. You notice that now that Trump has won the election, that he doesn't say anything about electoral rigging, fake elections, right? The only fake elections are the one he loses. Again, the fact that he himself is stating, hey, when I was president, officially, I believe that I did such a bad job that I allowed the election to be stolen from under me, is truly an insane take, like unbelievably. And somehow the American electorate was like, yeah, but he'll make bread less expensive. Fucking unbelievable. We should ban Zoomers from getting the vote. Or we should make boomers pass a dementia screen before voting. Just draw a clock. And if your clock has all 12 numbers, you get the vote. I'm just putting it out there. Don't at me. I'm joking around. Right? On January 4th, I love this. On January 4th, for example, Trump said the vice president has the power to reject fraudulently chosen electors. Of course, that's implying clearly that Trump believes that the legitimate electors sent from states were fraudulent, right? But you can see Trump calling people, including Giuliani and Eastman, begging someone to say that there was some kind of electoral fraud that could give him the chance to cancel the election and have an election that he himself hates, right? Now, insanely enough, worth noting is that almost no Republican officials have ever acknowledged that the 2020 election was free and fair, which is insane because if that were true, then those Republican officials that won their elections in 2020, right? They should resign their seats simply in protest, right? Because obviously they won in a false election. It's insane, right? The whole thing is insane. This is the person, by the way, who is now liaisoning with Congress and has bypassed a background check. Wouldn't you be curious to know about this person Yates's background check? Just a little? Does nothing about that make you say, huh, I would like to know more? Of course, the other person who got a pass, another person with no FBI experience, is Kash Patel's personal assistant, who, of course, is a spy for Stephen Miller, because that was her only other job assistant to Stephen Miller. That's it. That's her other job. And we know that Stephen Miller, right, loves to put his cronies, his little spies, in all other agencies because he's a conspiracy theorist. Instead of relying on data to make decisions, he just relies on insane conspiracy theories that don't make any sense. And so when you're a conspiracy theorist, of course, you believe there are enemies everywhere. So you put your spies everywhere you possibly can. So Dick Durbin said, having seen the complaint, he said, quote, as I understand it from highly credible sources, i.e. the actual whistleblower, key members of the senior executive team had disqualifying alerts on their initial polygraph. How did they survive? They survived because of a personal waiver by the director and the Bureau. Now, here's the thing, right? Oh, when Durbin asked Patel point blank if anyone in his senior executive team received disqualifying alerts on their polygraphs, Patel refused to answer. The senator followed up by asking if he or Pam Bondi granted a waiver, and he said, I have to get back to you. Then he never did. Absolutely, wow, brilliant line, guys. I can't figure out what the truth is. We can't understand. Now, here's the thing. The polygraph itself, often incorrectly referred to as a lie detector, is not very effective. It was pseudoscience, developed. It is highly inaccurate. It looks at blood pressure, pulse, respiration, skin conductivity, while a person is asked to answer a series of questions. The belief underpinning the use of a polygraph is that deceptive answers will produce physiological responses differentiated from those associated with non-deceptive answers. But there are no specific physiological reactions with lying, meaning that this is bunk. It's pseudoscience. There's sometimes an interrogation tool used by suspects. Right? We still, by law, use them for law enforcement agencies, some police departments, some suspects can take them, but they are, right? It is considered pseudoscience or junk science. Any scientific study has found polygraphs are highly inaccurate, could be easily defeated by countermeasures, are an imperfect or invalid means of assessing truthfulness. A comprehensive review from 20 years ago said there was little basis for the expectation that a polygraph test could have extremely high accuracy. The American Psychological Association stated that most psychologists agree there is little evidence that polygraph tests can accurately detect lies, right? And so this is just using polygraphs is just nonsense. It's just pseudoscience. The only thing about it that is helpful is the mystique. And that is the idea that the polygraph is a lie detector and that you can't beat it, so you should just be truthful, right? So in 2002, right, another study said that in some populations that don't get trained in countermeasures, specific incident polygraph tests can discriminate lying from truth-telling at rates above chance, but far below perfection. So again, a little better than chance, but even the Supreme Court has said there's no consensus polygraph evidence is reliable. Unlike expert witnesses can testify about factual matters outside the juror's knowledge, a polygraph expert can supply the jury only with another opinion. Polygraph is little better than can be obtained by the toss of a coin. So again, bear in mind, this is exactly what this study says, that it's above chance, which means, again, chance would be, okay, yes or no question, is my name Paul? And I go, no. And you toss a coin. You go, oh, 50-50. The coin's going to say, accurately characterize my answer. If a polygraph gives you 52% accuracy, then congratulations, it is statistically better than chance. It sucks, right? And there is literally no use of this. It is useless. So again, I don't mind the FBI saying, listen, there are better ways to do this, right? There are just better ways to do it. A conversation, literally, especially in this day and age, right? Where you could literally just say, listen, as a requirement, you've got to turn over your entire internet history. You got to provide us with the dates and addresses of everywhere you lived and give us permission to draw like all your internet history from Google forever. And then they feed it into an AI and they say, we actually found that despite having a weird love of, weird hentai or whatever, you're actually just a normal guy. You've never, committed any serious crimes. You're not a drug addict. You're not cripplingly in debt. The whole notion of like there's also a whole bunch of like stuff. The whole thing is insane. The U.S. security clearance system, and I say this as someone who had a top secret clearance. The whole U.S. security system is predicated on some of the dumbest shit, the dumbest things. Remember, it was written when if you were gay, that was disqualifying because they could blackmail you with your homosexual tendencies. And now we're just like, dude, the Secretary of Treasury is gay. Nobody gives a shit, right? Nobody cares. And same with like being like, oh, you're really in debt. It's like, bro, every American is really in debt. What do you mean it's a liability, right? Your credit score is worse if you're not. So, and they're like, oh, pass a drug screen. You're like, again, everybody's on psychotropic medication. There are huge portions of American. I'm using the word everybody. Huge portions of American. All of these things are potentially disqualifying for getting a top secret background check. And meanwhile, a bunch of shit that should probably be disqualifying is just free to go. Like I could be, okay, if I don't have a history of drug use, a mental health diagnosis, I could literally be in 100 like ultra right-wing destroy America Discord groups. Not disqualifying. They don't even look at it. FBI doesn't even look at it. I could literally be logging into like the fucking Hezbollah fan page on fucking Telegram. FBI is like, oh, you didn't disclose that account to us. Sorry, buddy. Looks like you got a pass. It's insane. It's insane. So it's a bad system. But the question is not, are they trying to reform a bad system and replace it with one that more reflects the modern era? That'd be great. But that's not what they're doing. What they're doing is for a few specific individuals, they're moving aside the obstacles, letting them through the barricades, and then closing it back behind them. Okay? You want to find out if they're still using the polygraph? Go apply to be an FBI agent. They'll polygraph you. Anyway, guys, if you want to contribute and help me and the channel remain in operation, you can, of course, become a member at combatvetnews.com or just hit that big old become a member button on YouTube and sign up for the specialist tier and above, and you'll get access to uncensored combat footage sent to us straight from the front lines over on Combat Vet News. Thanks to all of our Colonel tier members, Sergei Zinchenko, Thomas Anderson, William Alex, Yanko Georgiev, L90, and all of our Lieutenant tier members, including our one new Lieutenant tier member on YouTube. We're going to drop your name in there. We'll figure out who you are. All right. Thanks a lot. Cheers.